Okay, so in this video we're going to be doing the final bit for the photo holder, which is to use an assembly to assemble the final product, and we're going to look at adding materials so that it looks different for each of the different components. So we can actually make the bottom look like wood, we can make the aluminium look like aluminium, etc. So it doesn't just have that standard grey colour. As you can see, I've got the aluminium from the previous videos. What we're going to do now is if you click on new, or if you've opened up SolidWorks, you should have this box already open. If you click on the one that says assembly and then click OK, I know this is different, but this is basically about how you put different components together. So we're going to click that. It will load up and give us a new space to work on, so just give it a few seconds to load. Next, what we're going to do is on the left side, it will automatically open to show some of our components. It knows that I've been working on some of these previously, so if I choose browse, what I can do is I can actually find my pieces. So I've got aluminium base, so if I click open, and then it will allow me to move that around. If I click, it will then place it. I can then zoom out. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to assemble this in pieces that make logical sense. So I'm not going to add the wire now because I've got nothing for the wire to actually connect to. So the next component for me is going to be the central aluminium part. So insert component. I'm going to then do browse, and I saved mine as aluminium middle. So open that and then just click it somewhere. Some rules to remember with an assembly is that the first part you put in is always fixed. That means it won't move, whereas any components afterwards will move around unless you fix them. So what I'm now going to do is I'm actually going to make these parts together. So what that means is I'm going to lock these pieces together so that they're not going to move around, and also it means they're in the correct places. So if I click on mate, what I then want to do is click the outer ring of the base of this, and I'm going to line it up with the inner base on there. If I now move this up, what I can now do is select the bottom of my aluminium, like so, rotate my camera, and I'm going to put it into this internal part here. So I'm going to get it to sit within there. You should see that it moves into position. I can then green tick it to complete that action. That should now be locked together, and it means this can't accidentally move. So this won't move anymore. So that's now locked into place. Our final one that we're going to add is the aluminium wire. So what I'm going to do is exit out of that, insert component again. I can see wire there, but I'm going to go to browse so that I can show you how to do this one. Open that there. If I now bring that in, what I want to do with this one is I want to do mate again, and I want to make the base of that. So I'm going to do the base this time, and I'm going to rotate my camera and lock it onto the base that's inside there. Okay, it should automatically want to rotate round. Now I haven't fully defined this. What that means is that this is going to be able to move around, etc. So I need to move that into position. Once it's in position, I can then start to fix that. Now, as with all sorts of designs and things like that, you'll notice that actually that wouldn't work with a sort of real model because this cuts across. If I wanted to, I could then edit that to change that, and part of my design would make sure that that line there is straight. But that's why it's beneficial to do these sorts of things, because you can then see things that you might need to change. If I want to fix that in place though, so it can't move, if I right click it and I go down to the one that says fix here, it now means that this component can't accidentally move. So now I've got my final design for this, so I'll just rotate the camera so we can see it from an isometric view. Our final bit we're going to do is actually add some textures. So if you go over to the right over here, where we've got our multicolored orb, if you click on the one that says appearances, you can click the drop down, and you've got lots of different options within them. If I dragged polished steel, for example, it would then change it to look like polished steel. If you click this little drop down arrow here, it means that I can choose lots more options. So I can actually see like tungsten, titanium, iron, etc. So you can actually choose some different materials. So there is aluminium, there's polished aluminium, etc. So I can actually try adding, say, brushed aluminium onto here. If I then choose the different options, if I choose this first one, that is the face, that means it's just that first top face. If I do this one, it's the whole extrude, that's the whole body, and that's the whole base. So I want it to be the entire base because the base is made from the same material. If I then move across, I would then do it for here, etc. Okay, and you can see how you add them. Now, as lots of you will have realised, the base isn't actually made from aluminium. So what I could do if I needed to change my colours, if I go over to appearances here, I can actually click on this option here, which is the first one I placed down, right click and remove appearance, which will take it off the base. Then what I can do is I can go back and add the actual material that I want to use for this, which is going to actually be an organic. Now organic then has wood, and within that we've got loads of options. It doesn't actually have an option for plywood, so what we'll do is we'll add something that is similar. So I might add birch ply, for example. So there isn't plywood, so I will add birch instead. So maybe polished birch, and I will then choose the whole base as part of that. Now, for those of you that want to have a go at rendering, there is one more final video that will show you how to actually render to make this look more realistic than this. Because at the moment, this is okay. It does show the sorts of design, it adds a bit more texture, communicates it better, but there is another way to show you how to add. Okay, so for those of you that want to have a go at adding a more detailed render, you need to look on your desktop for the one that says SolidWorks Visualize. It might say 2023, 24, 25, etc., but it's SolidWorks Visualize. Double click that and it will start loading up, and what we're going to do is we're going to load in our assembly for our part. So mine's loaded up here. What we can do, go to the top left, do File, want to click on New. This will load up, so just give it a few seconds because it's loading in some of the visualize features. Then what we're going to do is we're actually going to add our model to this space here. So if we then do File, and we then want to go to the one that says Import, you're then going to look for where you saved your assembly, not the individual parts, the assembly. So this is mine, photo holder complete. If I then click Open, I want it to snap to the floor, and I want to leave instancing ticked, so click OK. What it's going to do is it's just going to bring in your model, and basically it's going to render whatever is in visual view on here. Now there are lots of different views on here. What we're going to do is we're going to go up to view up here, and we're going to click on the one that says toggle to easy mode, because what that will do is remove some of the more complex settings. So down at the bottom here, want to make sure that our product is nice front and center so that we can actually view it. Then with the render button down here, if you right click it, don't left click it, right click, you then get some options. Now on here, if I go down to high resolution, this is going to be more detail and it's going to take a lot longer for this to actually complete. So you don't want to choose necessarily the high resolution. What you want to do is maybe go for the lower down one, so maybe normal or high quality. If it says snapshot, basically that's not far off a screenshot, so it's not going to have a really high level of detail. So if I click normal and then click on render, you need to leave it now, because what's going to happen is it starts using quite a lot of computing power to actually go along, and it will add more and more detail to this, and depending on what computer you use depends on how quickly it will complete this. So that is now completed, because that was pretty quick, so that's quite a nice one. And then what we can do is we can actually click Reveal in Explorer. When you opened up this file, it would have saved it in the documents. Whenever you render, it automatically saves it in your documents, and then you've got a nice render of this, and you can see it looks much more realistic compared to our SolidWorks version. So this is a really good way of making a product look a bit more eye-catching. If you want to change the view, you can actually just click on Output Viewer here, close that, go back, and then you could have a play around with changing the angles on here. So we can actually view this at a slightly different angle perhaps. Go back to render, right click, and then we could choose normal again and render. Normal is going to be pretty fast, and you can see that it does give quite a lot of detail to the design and to the work that you've done, and you can even see that it's got the nice reflections on there as well. Now again, this is better run if you actually close SolidWorks as well. So don't have SolidWorks and this open at the same time, because they both use quite a lot of computing power. If I show you, I might not let it finish, but if I show you this one, if I did high resolution, you get an idea of just how much longer it can take. So it hasn't even really loaded anything at all, and it will do sections of the screen as it goes through. So if I click on details, it gives me a rough estimate of how long it's got remaining. So you can see roughly how long it's going to take, and it can take much longer than if you were doing on the lower settings. The detail will be a little bit more, it will be more vibrant, and it means that it will actually show a more realistic view of the images, but it's just weighing up whether it's worth waiting that long for it to complete, because most of the time, if I just cancel this, most of the time you're going to be perfect with these ones here. These will be absolutely fine. So they do give you a decent view of what the product looks like. So happy rendering.